Welcome to our next segment. We're kicking things off with Mr. Allan Bunt.
Allan is from his church, joining us from the video production desk. He's going to be showing us his vMix live streaming system. He has 5 PTZOptics cameras, and he shows us his 30x zooming all the way in from the back of the sanctuary. So it's a really great kind of case study, real-world look at when you put a lot of this stuff into practice, what you can accomplish.
Don't forget to get your notes ready. We're about to jump into things. Can't wait to see how his church has come along over the years.
Al, I'm so excited to have you from the Good Lutheran Church in Grand Rapids, Wisconsin. How you doing, Al?
Oh, I'm doing just fine. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Okay. I got a couple corrections. I got to get used to looking at the camera. I'm used to looking at the screen when I'm running my job here. Good Shepherd Lutheran Church and School, based in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin.
Oh, sorry.
Right, basically in the middle of the state. We are a Wells Lutheran Synod Church. Wells stands for Wisconsin Evangelical Synod. And, you know, our purpose here is, you know, come and see, go and tell. We're a relatively small congregation, 300 and less, but we've grown, as Tom said, online. I'll just give you a little bit of a background. We've been streaming here about 10 years. 2009 is when it started. Back in 2007, we have a local community access TV station that offered to supply us some equipment and some airtime if we would record our services and turn it into them. That was basically one simple camera shot from the back of the church that looked kind of like this, just from the back of the church, and then one shot only. And we would have an operator. So we'd start out with a handy cam with VHS tapes, believe it or not. And we eventually, so we didn't see the top of everybody's head, we would mount the camera on a tripod up on a pedestal. Well, what we learned in that first 2 years is it's very uncomfortable for the operator. The operator almost stepped off the perch one time, and we had a little bit of a safety concern at that point. And also, during that process, I was taking the video home and doing in post-production, putting all the hymn lyrics in and everything, and spending 7 to 8 hours on it just for one service. So I started thinking about building a system where we could have a desk and a video desk and just sit down and do the whole thing from there. And one of my first requests was remotely controlled cameras, so that I could have 1 or 2 different shots during the worship service. And then we started breaking ground. I built my first PC, built it very simply with what was available at the time, and 2 PTZOptics cameras, or not PTZOptics cameras, they were Sony cameras is what we started off with, all standard definition. And we recorded services. I would still have to do post-production work though. So I wanted a way to eliminate that also. Now, luckily, the software that I found that we beta tested for quite some time, previous to what we're using now, which is vMix, it would allow us to stream. And it was kind of an afterthought. Playing with the software and tinkering is like, what if we streamed the sermon? Just turn the streamer on during the sermon. Okay. Very low resolution, standard definition, 640 by 480, 480p basically, or I think it's I. In that process, we started streaming and realized that, hey, there's people who might like to watch us online. And we started growing an audience. Using a free service for content delivery had its perks and had its downsides. I seem to get a lot of viewers on it, but people just come and go. A lot of what they call drive-bys. There was a service called, I'm not even going to name them at this point. They're no longer working with churches at this point. So, I had to go to our congregation and come up with a plan and a proposal. Luckily, the church had been given a gift very recent to that, and for about $10,000, I was able to build a video desk, a video computer, 2 cameras, and host live streaming for the first year. Our quality went way up, and our viewership went way up. If you think about this for a minute, a small congregation, 300 members, maybe on an average Sunday, 100, 125 people in the pews, and 30, 40, 50 online. So the next question comes up. How do I do tech support for those people watching online? How do they tell me if they're seeing the stream or not, and how's the quality? Someone mentioned that I should, along with our stream, have a chat room. And I kind of balked at it at first. The chat room software out there wasn't that good at the time. And, in my searchings and finding, watching live streams online, there weren't many churches doing live streaming at all. If they were, it was just the sermon. So you wouldn't have any interaction with your viewers. Some congregation members say, I don't want interaction with my with people watching us. That was a little hurdle we had to get over. And we still proceeded. But once I got to show some people what we can do and live streaming, and then we put the chat room on the live page so that person watching online can watch the video and interact with the chat at the same time on the same page. Let's see. I'll kind of show you. So this is our live page. Now right now it's offline because we're doing this, but normally the live video shows up here, and then this is the chat room here. And I didn't erase last Sunday's chat and last Thursday's, so there's all kinds of conversations going on there. What this integration did for us is it gave a voice to our online viewers to talk to me. Hey, I can't see the stream. Great hymn. I can't hear well. What can I do to make that better? So, we do have some people at home that can't get to church, but the biggest thing is our online membership. It's not just someone tuning in to watch a church service for 5 minutes. We actually have online members. One couple as far away as Ecuador, who are regular viewers, regular members in our congregation, voting members in our congregation, participate in communion online from Ecuador, sometimes on a laptop, sometimes on a mobile phone. We started out in the progression of 2009, very low resolution, just one stream. If the internet hiccuped once, we would go dark for a little bit. We struggled with that for years, in the process as the process went on. So if you take a look here, this is my camera 1, shooting from the back of the church, and I have full control of it remotely. And my remote, this is the remote I'm using to control that. So this camera 1, and I have another one over on the wall that's looking right at me, so I'll wave at you. And you can see there's a one-way mirror there, right behind us here. There's a room behind it that's for our family room, so that's a one-way mirror. Right above that mirror, you will see a camera 3, and that's this camera right here that you're looking at. As I'm looking at. If you look at this camera, you can kind of see our layout here. So down in here in the lower cabinet, we have a computer for vMix, computer for the organ right here, 2 screens for vMix, a laptop for just running a chat room or auxiliary things that we need to check into. And then up here is our another PTZOptics camera. This last upgrade that we did in July took us from standard definition, 2 or 3 cameras, to full high definition 1080p and 5 cameras now. So there's 3 cameras in the sanctuary, a 5th one. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3. Actually, 4 cameras in the sanctuary. I lost track of what I was doing. I also have it in another room, which is this one. That's in our fellowship hall and Bible study area. And I can't swing it around to show you because there's students in our school in that room also at the same time. So that's in another room. So 5 cameras total. 4 of them hard mounted, mounted to the ceiling, wired into the building. And the 5th one is on a tripod. That's my mobile one. I can put that anywhere in the building that I have internet connection with and shoot video. Outside even is the plans. So we worked quite a few years with standard definition. We were limited not only in budget-wise, but limited by our internet provider. When our internet provider finally was able to give us some decent upload speed, that we could run high definition, we took off from there. I have 2 internet connection accounts. I have one strictly dedicated for streaming. That's 10 megabytes up. And the other one's about 7 megabytes up. That's for the rest of the church to use on a LAN. Just to kind of show you a couple things. There's my Sony remote. That's the old remote that we used to use with the Sony cameras, but it does work with the PTZOptics using Visca control. That's all hardwired to 4 cameras. So we don't ever have to worry about Wi-Fi or network dropout. I've got physical control of them. Here's kind of a screenshot just before we started the summit today of me just with a cell phone, just taking a picture of all the screens right here in front of me. This shot is from our PA system. It's a Allan and Heath PA 28 that I pull worship house audio off one of the aux sends that they send me, and that goes back into my mixer in the upper right hand corner here, where I can control it on what goes on in the stream. So as our previous presenter said, you want to keep house of worship kind of separate, but you need to do some things to the streaming to make sure audio is routed properly. I hope everybody can still hear me. Let me get back to my shot here. So, 10 years of live streaming, and what have we learned? Tom before mentioned that we have online members who actually participate in communion online. In most Lutheran churches, that's a no-no, because you can't tell what everybody's doctrine is and what communion means to our congregation. But we have solved that because our online members are the only ones that get the host and sent out to them, and they have to register online for communion. It's very, very, very important. My chat room moderator is actually based in Florida and Puerto Rico. They bounce back and forth. They take care of the chat room for me. That chat is, how do I want to say that? That chat is so important to the online community because they work and talk between themselves, and she takes care of the chat room while I'm sitting here running the show. There's lots of different things that go on during a worship service. Some of the challenges that I've had is keeping and growing a volunteer base. Now I have some young gentlemen who I am in the process of training. One of them is my son Andrew. He is not here today. He had to go to school, so I apologize for that. He's been working with me at this console since he was 6 years old. Now he's 16. He's just about done. When he gets out of high school, he'll be going off and moving off. So most of my volunteers are young'uns. Now, if you notice, this camera shot, there's an organ sitting right next to me. I also program the organ. We don't actually have a live organist, so I have volunteers that will run the organ here, sitting right next to me, and we work off together. Over in the far corner is where we have the main house PA. So we've got them separated by 50 feet or so. It gives us lots of flexibility. My system, excuse me, not only can we capture audio and video from the worship service, but I can send audio and video out also, like we're doing right now through vMix Call. This is awesome software for it. I wouldn't recommend anything else. I used a previous version of what was called Vid Blaster for a number of years. It got to a point where they didn't promote it or make it any better for a lot of years, and it worked great. It still works at this point. So it is very interesting how getting this all to work together. My volunteers, when I try to recruit them, they look over at this corner and they go, "Wow, that's too much to work on. I can't remember all that." But you know, I run it all. I know it all. But most of my operators are just do one little part. One runs the cameras. One runs the chat room. One puts graphics up on the screen. Oh, that's another thing I can show too. So, for instance, we can put graphics on the screen using for all the hymn lyrics and everything, similar to this. So we're singing along, and I'm controlling the graphics as they progress here. This is what is called data source, pulling data out of an Excel spreadsheet and putting it, overlaying it on top of the video. You'll notice here on this one also, this is where I put my online giving blurb, right while we're collecting the offering. Our offerings are done through PayPal. It's on our self-hosted website, so we have control of it. As Tom said, we own it. You know, if Facebook or YouTube decides to change policy and not us do it, we've still got it here. It's on our website. Sorry about that. I lost my train of thought. Our website is here, and people can watch the live video here also. Where are we going from the next step? Automation is a big key here. And I'm to the point now where I'm starting to want to step back as an operator and let my young people and operators work this. And I'm moving more into a production supervisor role, or executive producer, if you want to call it that. And I'm going to be teaching some other elders to step into my place so that I can have a vacation once in a while, or if I get sick or something. And I'm going to teach them some basics on how, you know, at this time you start a stream, you push this button to turn this switch on, you know, and make sure you have enough volunteers to cover every desk. On a regular day here, regular worship Sunday, I've got an operator sitting here, an organist sitting here, and I'll back out a little bit. There's a projection screen operator there. I capture the projection screen, and we use Media Shout. So I'm looking very forward to listen to the other presenters here this afternoon. I capture that right off the VGA port on the PC and inject it right into a camera input. There's the camera input right there, directly. And then I can also have total control of it. So that whatever goes on the slides here, I can switch it and fix it. I can also do interesting things like this, where I can put up, you know, a multi-screen, picture-in-picture, side by side. We like to use that quite a bit. And back to this shot now. Now, we do have Bible study. That is held in our fellowship hall on that camera, or it can be in the one in here too, in the sanctuary. So very, very, very flexible. And a couple other things I can demonstrate. Each one of my cameras has presets on it. So we can move the camera around to different shots. So that's a close-up of the lectern where Pastor preaches from. That's something in the middle for different occasions. A little bit wider shot. The choir when they're singing. And this one's kind of unique. This is where we held our baptisms at, right at the back of the sanctuary. That's our baptismal font. And they'll stand around that baptismal font and they'll shoot down right up over their heads as they're doing a live baptism. Very, very, very important. My camera too over here. Now that's on the other side of the room. I'll wave to you again. Very interesting there. This also has different presets. So we can move around, and I have multiple different shots. Now obviously I would not be moving the cameras like this during a worship service. You want to spread things around a little bit. We'll go back to that shot there. What this gives us, I have 4 cameras in the sanctuary here, and I have dozens of camera shots if I want them. I can zoom in on something, on a specific person or something, and switch to it real quick. What that causes us sometimes, though, is that, let's see. I apologize for that. I wasn't quite ready for that. So we'll get back to this shot here. Now you'll notice in my hand here, you'll see it's a tablet. It's got an orange thing on it. If I switch back to my other view here, now it's green. Switch back, turn on. These are my tally lights. This is built into the vMix software. I don't have any hard wiring to light bulbs or wiring in the building or anything. They're all controlled with the software. I have 3 of these, and I hang them on the wall by each camera. What this is for is so that my pastor or who is ever up at the front presenting back knows which camera to look at, and I don't have to wave at them or get signals or anything. And it's just by color. When it's red, you look at it. When it's any other color, you don't have to worry about it. Very, very simple, very inexpensive. These are less than $100 a piece. They run on battery, so you just got to plug them in and charge them up at the end of service. Very, very, very handy and not intrusive. We used to have a light bulb system that when the lights would come on, they would click. You'd hear the relay click right above the bulb, and it would make people look at them, and then there's this great, big, gigantic red light bulb shining in their face. It was very distracting. So we've switched to these now with this system. Tom Sinclair and I go way back, back to the other software, VidBlaster days. But Tom got me to look at vMix, and I haven't looked back since. It took a matter of time until we could get funding available. It come from an online gift. Bequeathed to us. I have online members that are great contributors. It's a budgeted item in our council budget. It started out very small. It's pretty substantial now. All the costs involved with purchasing this equipment and keeping it running and streaming and the website is all taken care of by our online viewers. But it is a budgeted item, so that's regular contributions for that. I'm a believer that self-hosted is my way to go. I haven't done much live Facebook posting yet. We're working at it. We're getting there. I don't have quite enough bandwidth yet for it. I have enough bandwidth to run 2 streams. One full 1080p, high quality, 30 frames per second stream, which is quite bandwidth intensive, 6 megabits per second. And then we also run a 720 stream for our mobile users so that when you're watching on your mobile phone, it's less bandwidth and it runs a lot smoother simultaneously. And that's all done through a paid content provider. I use a paid one because, again, like Tom said before, I own it. I pay for it. They don't put any ads on it. In my personal opinion, the worship service shouldn't ever have any ads that preempt or pre-roll or post-roll or mid-roll even. Like we did use Ustream for a while way back when it was still worked halfway good, but they would preempt it with advertisement, and I had absolutely no control over what kind of ads would come up on there. In our case here, our main provider is through a paid-for CDN, and then everything else is auxiliary. You know, if I go to YouTube or I go to Facebook, that's all auxiliary, as time permits. Let's see, what else can I talk about? I showed you that shot. Oh yes, I remember now. So for this shot, you'll notice there's a projection screen going right there. Now it does, the blue tinge is just based on the blue windows coming through here and the way the cameras pick up. They're not adjusted correctly for this light condition. Everything that this system puts out can be put on the screen. Totally. They can totally be put on the screen. Mostly that projection screen, and there's also one here in the middle. We actually run two of them. You'll see that one come down remotely here. So there's two projectors. So people sitting on whatever side of the church, they can see what's up there. I can project videos on there, the ones that I produce and output out of my system here, or as in I don't have control over it right now at the moment, but normally you'll see this on the screen, which is our media shout presentation. And I can switch them here just quickly. I normally have a separate person that does all that, so but that's how we get through all those. I know there's lots more I can talk about if I can just get my mind wrapped around it. And I mean, that's pretty much it for at this point. Does anybody else have any questions? Let's see here. Oh, I know why. I'm on the wrong camera. That's why. Sometimes it gets a little confusing when you're working here with all these cameras and switching back and forth. You know, as my desktop shows here, I've got 2 monitors, 3 computers, a couple of keyboards, the handy dandy little Stream Deck thing down here right in front of me, and also my X Keys 24. So I have a lot of shortcuts and a lot of scripting set up, you know, one button pushes. When you see me switching through cameras here, that's all left-handed, with just on one, switching back and forth between them all here. And this fourth camera here isn't controlled by the Sony remote that I showed you before. This is controlled strictly over NDI. For instance, we'll take it and give it a swing here. Yeah, maybe we will.
All right. Thank you so much, Al. People in the chat room are being so happy to hear you and what you're doing over at your church.
It's a labor of love. It's a compassion of mine. I live, eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. So, and this is just my part-time job. So,
yeah, I wanted to mention to the audience, Al is taking the day off to be with us. So, Al, thank you so much. It's so powerful. Let's take a moment to answer just a couple questions from the chat, because I know there's a lot of people out there interested in learning about what you're doing. So someone's asking, how many cameras do you have?
I have 4 cameras in the sanctuary, 1 in a fellowship hall, so I have a total of 5. I also have an older Sony Handycam for taking live video and just recording it. That's pretty much retired at this point, but I do have that available.
What cameras do you have connected? Are you using SDI or NDI HX?
4 of my cameras are PTZOptics PT30s. and they are connected via SDI. Those are all my hard-mounted cameras. So SDI cabling is run throughout the building, which was part of the big thing of our upgrade here, was getting everything rewired. It took 2 or 3 weeks to get it all wired and then get it to go live. And then the 5th PTZ camera is just NDI directly in with PoE, power over Ethernet. So one cable on a 50-foot reel, and I can plug this in anywhere in the church.
A couple other questions coming in. Everyone's saying thank you. What type of headset are you wearing?
This is it's an Audio-Technica professional headset and microphone, so you hear me through this microphone. I wanted to have good production quality when I do voiceovers or preambles that I also use as part of our podcast. I take the sermon video out of it and cut it out and produce that as an audio podcast also, and produce that every week. And we've got over almost 500 under our belt now at this point.
Wow, and Al will be joining in the Zoom conference call. There's one last thing that someone wants to see. I think it'd be worth showing. Could you show us a fully zoomed in and zoomed out 30X? Someone's asking how far can a 30X zoom inside of a church? So this is what we'll see in just a second.
I'm going to put my number one camera, which is to the back of the sanctuary. That's zoomed all the way out, and I'll try to just zoom in slowly here, right up to the altar here. And we'll just slowly work our way into it. If there was typeface on there, you could read it. That's zoomed all the way in. That's to the banner on the front of the altar. Versus zoomed all the way out, that's over 50 feet.
Wow, that was an awesome real live case study, kind of seeing what a church can do with video production.
The next segment was filmed in our studio. We had our friends from Stream Gear over. Daryl and Gerard are going to talk to you about a brand new product.
All right, Worship Summit Live, continuing forward.